Hello, I'm Eli, and I make games. So, for this week's episode of Feedback Friday, I am going to be reviewing a game called Delta Chase, made by this small YouTuber. His name is Helper Wesley, and I'm going to be going over his game. But first, let me explain better on the rules of submitting a game for one of these episodes. Last week, I didn't really explain it all the well because I still hadn't figured it out all the way, and someone did try to submit, but it didn't follow the policies that I'm sorry I did not state them, but I'm just gonna get this out of the way so everyone knows, and if they want to, they can come back to this. I'll probably do a separate upload just so people can find this easier, but nonetheless, it's going to be here for now. So, the game must be playable on computer, and you must send me the link to the game page for me to play it and review it. This is so important because I'm sorry, I forgot whoever it was. I'll put the comment up here in editing, but they sent me a name of game. They said it was really cool. I'm like, okay, cool, and then I asked them, well, what platform is it on? They're like, it's on mobile. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't play it. And then they're like, oh, I think there's a computer version. And I'm like, and then I had to ask him, well, what website's it on? And he's like, I think it's on Europe.io or it's something like that. But and I couldn't find the game. And so to make things easier, always send me that link. But speaking of, I'm only doing games on itch.io, and there's a reason for that. The reason is two things. A, that's where I already put out my games, and I play most computer games. B, it's a lot easier, and I know how to use itch.io, and because of the comment system, I can always send them these videos so they can actually get the feedback, because that's what's really important in the end. I am more likely to play a game if you submit it if it is your own creation. The feedback is probably the most valuable part of these videos. Even though they are entertaining, I want people to be able to get what they need out of this. And also, it's just, it doesn't have to be on itch.io, okay? It's just a lot easier, and I'm more likely to play it. If you send me the link to a game, it's on Steam and it is free, I will try to play it. But if there's 5 other games and they're on itch.io, and then say 2 of those games are your own creation, those 2 games are much more likely to be tried out by me. I normally go with whatever looks interesting, but sometimes I go for what's the most flawed, because a lot of times the people who have a lot of flaws in their games are who need it most. There's a lot of feedback and stuff. You can also, the games also, they must be appropriate. All games must be around an E10 plus, so that means just nothing particularly foul, nothing inappropriate in general, okay? It's just easier. I just don't want to be playing stuff like that. And you can send me what other games you really want, okay? Of course, as it follows the rules, I don't need any games that don't follow those rules. Also, I prefer no extreme horror games. If it is slightly horror-esque, or it looks really interesting, as long as there's no like jump scares. If it's like remotely kind of creepy, I'm fine with it. Just nothing insane like that. That's just the rules for submission. And if anyone came back here now, because you wanted to just see the game review, you can see that now. So the game is called Delta Chase, as I have already said, and it is made by a YouTuber named Helper Wesley. I'll put his links down below. And this will probably also be on his Discord server. So if you want to check that out, I'll also put a link down there too. But we're going to start with the negatives, and then we'll go to the positives. So it's a whole circle. So, the negatives. The the jump, it doesn't feel right. It feels kind of stiff. It's because it's not a physics-based jump. And there's not enough floatiness to it. Like, it feels really stiff, and it doesn't really feel like you're going very far because the animation's kind of slow. So it just doesn't feel right. Like, if the animation maybe was had a bit more frames, or it was just faster in general, it would probably feel a bit better. Or what you could do is you can make the jump, you could make it a bit higher, but you come down quicker. And what you're doing there is you're making that arc extended, but you're still having a harder fall, so it feels like there's actual physics to it. Because it just kind of feels really floaty, but at the same time really stiff. There's nothing really kind of balancing out. So if you did something like that, that would just be a lot easier to just look at and like feel when you're controlling the game. But the most biggest thing, which you probably have seen this by now in the footage, but the respawn, oh, that was annoying. Basically, because there's those freeze frames where you can't control, if you any keys that you press down during that bit, they'll be executed the frame you get control again, which can make it really hard to get back into the flow of the game when you just keep on jumping and jumping at the wrong time. If you got your jump a little bit off, and there's two ways you could fix this. You could put better visual feedback. There is some, but like maybe just make it that when you're on the ground, like maybe you just flash red a bit until you're able to move again. That tells the player, okay, I can't do anything. Or B, what you probably should do is just don't take any inputs during that time. Like, because it's taking those inputs, that means as soon as you can control it, does it, and then you hit it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until you finally get out, like, get away from that obstacle, and it happens again, and then again, and then again, and it's just very annoying, and it's just not a good way to do it. The easiest way would just don't take any inputs during those freeze frames. It's not that insane, but I mean, that would do a lot for the gameplay. But positive, it's got a nice aesthetic. Now, I do know that you did not make the graphics. But the way you incorporated that gameplay and then you kind of took it into the graphics, it made it look nice. Had a nice scroll to it, and then the parallax effect you did, it worked nicely in that city-esque vibe that the aesthetics brought across, and it just kind of comes together in a nice way. So that was nice. And then the concept itself is pretty good. It's an endless runner, of course, which is nothing new. But it's a side-scrolling one where you jump and slide, which is still nothing new. But like the actual concept itself, it's not nothing insane, and you can speed up how you want to go, and then you're catching a perp, a bad guy. Not the worst concept in the world. It ties together what the gameplay pretty well, of course. If those improvements were made that I suggested during the negative section, um, that would just bring it along even more. But overall, those are like, I did even out positives and negatives because there's probably a lot more positives, like I said, a lot more negatives, probably more negatives than positives, I'd say. But I kind of want to get the broader strokes across, because the game is pretty 50-50 with things. I mean, it looks nice, it sounds nice, um, everything just kind of fits together well, but at the same time, there's just those gameplay problems that really just marks it back. It's like you got this good game, and then you set some settings wrong, and then boom, a knife's been stuck up its back. It doesn't feel right in those ways. But overall, I liked the game. It was pretty cool. I had those big issues which really annoyed me, but overall, I give the game. I wouldn't give it a very high score because of those negatives. I probably wouldn't give it like a 4 or 5. I'd probably give it around a 3. It's just that 50-50. So 3 out of 5 stars overall. Pretty decent game overall. Had those if it didn't have those glaring flaws, I'd put it at a 4. But it just pulls it back too far, and it's not perfect. No game is, but those flaws it just makes it hard to play for what it is. In a game that's a pseudo platformer, controls are probably one of the most important parts. So it doesn't it just that part if it had the better controls, maybe those freeze frames just didn't take any inputs, I'd say the game would be a good 3.5 to 4, but that's just how the game is. So, um subscribe to me, subscribe to Helper Wesley, links in the description. For Helper Wesley, I'll also put his Discord down there, because why not, helping other people. um and if you like, if you don't, and subscribe. Peace.